toward the locker room as well. But if you had to take two things from that first half, what would they be, and what does Baltimore have to do in the offensive zone to get after Kentucky Stickhorses goaltender Spencer Lyons?
Well, it seems like through all our games this season that we lost, it was the third quarter was the big quarter for the other team. Both Boston games and the game in Kentucky was the third quarter. So we got to bear it down. We got to talk between the period, figure out what we did wrong. You would think that with a 5-minute power play would be our time to score some goals, but give Kentucky some credit. They actually came back and got a couple of nice goals. Ginny made a nice stop there at the end of the half, and hopefully that'll get her ready for the second half. And we'll see what happens.
And Baltimore hoping for a better fate in the third quarter than against the Boston Rockhoppers, where Boston scored 7 of the 8 goals in the third quarter, including Mike Smith, who exploded for 7 goals in that game last week. And of course, Frank, the outdoor record for most goals in a contest is a dozen goals, and Smith had a big day last week, scoring 7 times. But here, after 2 quarters, it's the Kentucky Stickhorses 6 and the Baltimore Bombers 5. We'll step aside for just a second. We'll be joined by Stickhorses owner Tony Chase when we come back right after this.
Mike Stone.
I said Smith, didn't I?
Yeah.
Hey, how are you, Tony? Good to meet you. Steve Colby. Good stuff.
Good? Worked out okay? You want me out of here for a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can't afford your intermission rate.
Oh, no, you can't.
That's right. They're running the cheap labor.
We can't afford your intermission rate.
The cloud cover helps with the sun coming in.
Yeah. It's going away. The second quarter was bad last week too. I guess we'll go for like 5 or so.
Yeah.
You need earbuds?
Yeah, let's do that so I can hear what you're saying.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Dew Burns Arena in downtown Baltimore, Maryland. Happy to have you along for Baltimore Bombers lacrosse as the Bombers host the Stickhorses, the first of 2 matchups between these 2 teams in the next several weeks. 6-5, the Stickhorses have the edge as they explode for 3 consecutive goals late in the second quarter. McIsaac, Guerin, and O'Brien do the damage against netminder Ginny Capiccioni and are able to give the Stickhorses the advantage at the break. Happy to be joined now by Kentucky owner Tony Chase. And Tony, it's happy to have you inside the broadcast booth here and what has become I guess a seesaw battle between these 2 teams.
Absolutely. It's been back and forth. As you know, it's a game of runs, and we had a good 3-0 run there at the end to go into the half.
Goaltenders were the story of that first quarter as both Capiccioni and Spencer Lyons were able to have their way with the shooters. Capiccioni in that first quarter alone had a dozen saves. Lyons had 10 at the other end. Then things sort of turned. The shooters in this league always adjust and always find the smallest of holes to put that ball into the net.
Absolutely. And we've got good shooters on both teams, and clearly the parity in this league is pretty strong, so it's exciting to watch. But like you said, the first quarter, the goalies ruled the roost, and then the shooters ruled in the second quarter.
Let's talk about how the season has gone overall for the NALL. Of course, the Boston Rockhoppers, who have given Baltimore all kinds of trouble so far this year with 2 big wins by a 20-9 count and also an 18-9 count just last week. They're in front 5-1, then Baltimore at 3-3, 2-3 for Kentucky, and then also the Kingfisher behind at 0-3, and they had their struggles, of course, were hit by the storm, game postponed here. But talk about how the season overall as a whole has gone.
I think it's been fantastic. I mean, obviously the fans are getting their money's worth. The games have been great, even though there were a couple lopsided games. Obviously, Baltimore took Boston to an overtime game. There's been several overtime games this year. There's been a lot of games decided by 1. And so it just tells me that the league has done a great job of making sure that there's good parity. We're going to see good growth, and so what I'm hoping is that we can keep up with the talent and adding teams to the league.
And Kentucky no stranger to those close games. Kentucky 17, Rhode Island 14. Baltimore 17, Kentucky 13, and then the Stick Horses with a 1-goal edge, 11-10 the last time these two teams locked horns. So that keeps it exciting for the fans who attend these contests, no matter what barn you head to watch these players. The outdoor game versus the indoor game. Of course, many of the players on the rosters, both in Baltimore and in Kentucky. Kentucky has a lot of local guys that make the trip to play their home games, but the outdoor game has really thrived, made its way to the Midwest, and the indoor game is following suit.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously having the Ohio Machine guys on our team has helped us a lot, but there's no question that the outdoor game has thrived. In Kentucky alone, there were about 12 high schools playing outdoor lacrosse about 12 years ago. Now there's over 3,000 kids in Jefferson County alone, which is Greater Louisville. So it's an amazing growth, and I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a similar growth in the box game, even at that level. The high school and college level.
Well, of course, the international play is always something that you've got to look at as well. And our guest during our first half, and probably coming back for the second half after he has a talk with his goaltender, is Frank, who was just here for quarters number one, and his international experience. Ginny Cappiaccioni also having played for the 2011 World Team, and also with her 10 years pro north of the border when she was in Windsor playing the box lacrosse game. So I think that as more fans are exposed to both games, the indoor and the outdoor game, that also improves the skill level, because an outdoor player, obviously with the distance they've got to run, they're coming in better shape, and we've seen that from quite a number of the guys today.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got guys that have great legs. Adding Chaz Woodson to our squad was a gigantic gain for us. He's still learning the game, but obviously his skill sets will allow him to accelerate beyond a lot of players in how they grow in this sport. From our standpoint, we feel like the box lacrosse game is going to gain a lot of momentum in the Midwest, and it's just a lot of fun to watch these guys that come from the outdoors to play indoors and watch them transition into the box game.
Woodson had a great chance back there in the waning stages of the second quarter. We're joined here at halftime by Kentucky Stick Horses owner Tony Chase. Of course, the Stick Horses are coached by Peter Schroeder. The Baltimore Bombers are led by Hunter Francis, 6-5. The Stick Horses have a 1-goal edge over the Bombers as we are between the second and third quarters here from the Dew Burns Arena. Steve Colby, happy to have you along. Parity in the league. Obviously, no one wants to see any team put too much of a gap between themselves and their nearest opponent. Baltimore and Kentucky, I'm sure, are looking at these two games here at the Dew Burns Arena as the make or break point of both their seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Boston clearly has dominated, but again, several of their games have been by 1 goal, so it could have gone either way. We really feel like that if we can get a couple games under our belt, a couple more wins, we've got a pretty good shot at going at Boston for the championship. Absent that, Baltimore obviously has a great team, and I think they can give Boston their hands full. So either way it goes, Boston's not a shoe-in for the championship.
Kentucky 2-2 at home, 0-1 on the road so far. Obviously the next two are away from your home barn, but you've got to win on the road, you've got to win at home. You can't win on the road, you can't win championships. That's what they say in all sports. Talk about some of the leaders on your squad. Obviously the go-to guys in Baltimore are players like Merole and Wasik and Hickman, who's having a great year, Simon with that speed. Who are the go-to faces of the franchise right now for Kentucky?
Well, we've got a couple, really. I mean, obviously, when you look at it from a team captain standpoint, you've got Anthony Kelly, who's played years in both the NLL and MLL, good Ohio State player, and obviously one of the team leaders. And then you've got Brandon Dugan, who has come on strong after last year, had a great year, but he's turned into one of the leaders. We always rely on our goalies very heavily as far as leadership concerned, but we got guys all over the squad that step up at various times and demonstrate leadership either in the locker room or on the field. And quite frankly, at any given day, any of these guys can be a leader on the team.
Obviously, everyone knows they can get a hold of Bombers action at BaltimoreBombers.com. Let's tell everybody how they can get a hold of the Kentucky Stick Horses and also the NALL.
It's KentuckyStickHorses.com as well. We also have a Facebook page that's very active with well over 3,000 fans. And then the North American Lacrosse League is just that, NorthAmericanLacrosseLeague.com, all spelled out. You can get all your statistics and all your standings straight off that website.
Make sure you go on there, check out the player profiles. They'll also have YouTube video highlights of each and every game. You can check out the highlights of this game later on today. A goaltending exhibition in that first quarter, a goal scores exhibition in that second quarter.
Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how this pans out in the second half.
Tony, it's been a pleasure having you up, and best of luck, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Tony Chase will step aside. We've got the third quarter face-off coming your way in just a few moments. It's Baltimore trailing Kentucky 6-5. More to come right here from the Du Burns Arena.
6 years.